that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Loved it. Okay. Okay, so it is time for us to do our Community Voices talks, and we have a special service several times a year where we ask different people from our community to come up and give short. Did I say short? Short. As in short. Talks. To just get a greater sense of community and sharing. And so we're going to do them just in alphabetical order. So the first person to speak will be our own Reverend Gwen Evans.
Gwen.
Christmas 2015 is the end of a year that I knew as the year of quickening. And this coming year is the year of manifestation. You are being asked to remember that you create the world of your experience in each and every moment. When Yeshua talks about how he communicates with us, he says he holds a form of communication, a thought, a vibrational field that emanates from his mind as a completed project, his desire to extend the atonement. That vibration alone is not enough, he says. He says it needs the resonance of similar deep desires, a like-minded vibrational field in others, namely us. Also, being the sons and daughters of God, what else would we desire except to experience the world of profound peace and joy through Christ's mind and Christ's vision? So today, as our energies touch and join, that is exactly what we're emanating back to Yeshua, our deepest desire for peace. Yeshua has asked me to ask each of you to recognize your own power to attract him directly to yourself, as he is doing by holding this steady vibrational thought of the atonement, a call to each of us to remember who and what we are. Just a few days ago, he whispered my assignment for this coming year. I need to own the power of manifestation. And he has given me some specific things that he wants me to do. But I have to admit to being rather resistant out of my own sense of not being good enough or not worthy, a lifelong issue for me. I have definitely found this so-called spiritual journey to be quite a challenge. What if I don't like what I'm experiencing? Which happens a lot. There in that moment, my judgments enter. Why is this happening to me? Why don't I have that perfect job? Why don't I have that perfect lover? But Joshua, laughing, usually at 3 and 4 in the morning with me, says that my judgments won't change a darn thing of what I'm experiencing. Instead, he has been guiding me to look in a systematic way at my relationships with people, places, and things. Our daily workbook lessons are a way of pausing us and saying, I am in this moment of this relationship because I have called it to myself. Now keep in mind, I don't always like all the stuff I'm calling it myself. There is then something within me that resonates with this other experience, be it a person, a place, or a thing. Joshua also has been very patient with me and my diversions, of which there have been many this year. He's been guiding me to all kinds of information about how things actually manifest, namely through quantum physics. If you're not familiar with it yet, check out David Hoffmeister's book, which we have back there, called Quantum Forgiveness. Subtitle, Physics, Meet Jesus. And Tony's holding it up. In the next few years, you are going to see an explosion of books and media about this issue of manifestation, how nothingness becomes something. There's been a major paradigm shift in physics from the Einstein-Newtonian physics into quantum physics, where weird things happen. So some of the materials that you'll be seeing through the media are all about love of your life, manifesting finances. Some will even be about energy medicine and application of quantum physics to distance healing, which I'm personally working with as a licensed therapist. For many souls, awakening still does need to be attached to some demonstrable outcome, but Joshua is saying that that is not the point. The point is that we recognize that we have this power and are using it every single moment, whether we like the results or not. And that the real point of this growing awareness, this quickening, and this manifestation is that we become aware of a profound inner peace from which this power emanates. The world peace that we all still say we want will happen when true change occurs. So I asked him, well, how does true change occur? When you change your mind about who and what you are. When we recognize that all relationships are manifestations, are the goodness of God cloaked in what we fear in the moment, but we can remove that fear. And they are all the result of something within our own consciousness, because as the Course and other recent channeled works from Jesua remind us, there's really only one of us here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Gwen. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Al Gilbert.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas and an early Happy Kwanzaa and a belated Happy Hanukkah.
All right, good job.
So I grew up in the Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean, American Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, and we celebrated many, many wonderful tropical Christmases. And like most young kids, I love Christmas. I couldn't wait for it to come, and I hated for it to go. And one year I had a great scheme that I was going to keep Christmas around for a long time. And the tradition was, I grew up in a Scandinavian family, Norwegian mother and aunt, and Danish stepfather and uncle. We would alternate between our two houses. So one year was at my house, and another year at my uncle's house. This year was at my uncle's house. So I wrote an essay about this little experience. I'm going to read the essay, and then I'll say a few comments after that. So here's the essay. Looking up from his worn leather shoes, a wry smile crossed his face when he considered my urgent request. "Are you sure?" he asked. My uncle's voice invoked a feeling of warmth within me, yet I could tell he was skeptically amused by the idea. "Absolutely," I replied. I was convinced that I could make Christmas last late into the next year if I planted the Christmas tree in the front yard, broken bulbs and tired tinsel and all. Mind you, there were a few conditions to which I was totally oblivious. First, the temperature outside was not a wintry 18 degrees, but rather a tropical 80 degrees in my home in the American Virgin Islands. Second, the brave Douglas fir was shipped by freighter from New York, purchased on a hot pier, and propped in a pail of cold water before finally decorated on Christmas Eve in the Scandinavian tradition. If it wasn't dead on arrival, it had certainly expired by the 12th day of Christmas, when I was convinced that returning the tree to the rock-hard island Earth would generate a chlorophyll miracle by Easter. "Okay," my uncle agreed, "but you have to stop here every morning on the way to school and water it. It won't survive otherwise." I had anticipated that condition, agreed readily, and the deal was done. After removing the lights and decorations, we muscled the tree down the hill to a spot inside the gated fence. With great effort and a muttering of Danish profanity I couldn't quite make out, he carved a hole large enough to hold the object of my childhood enthusiasm. True to my word, I watered that skeleton every day on the way to school. I paid little attention to the withering branches, long naked of any needles, looking more the image of a wilted Charlie Brown Christmas tree. Days melted into weeks and months, and before I knew it, the annual Sears Roebuck catalog arrived, including the all-important toy section, which I studied judiciously to prepare my annual wish list for the forthcoming holidays. As for the tree, it slowly dawned on me that it was a stupid idea. I told my uncle around July that it was time to remove the charred remains from his yard. Decades of Christmas trees and gifts have come and gone since then, but my uncle's willingness to let me follow my childhood enthusiasm, figure it out for myself, and not make me wrong, that was the best gift of all. So, as I say, many Christmases have come and gone, and over the years I've celebrated Christmas and the Course in Miracles in various degrees of involvement. Certainly as my universal family has become smaller, my involvement has become a little bit less. So it's really sort of waned over the years from being the classic Christmas with lots of shopping and Christmas trees and decorating them to what I call Christmas light. So to where we now put a few lights and bulbs on the ficus tree and get a Christmas wreath and come to this event. So, and then also, many years, almost 20 years ago, a little bit more than 20 years ago, I studied the Course in Miracles here with Reverend Tony and others, and I was into the Course in Miracles Classic. My wife Carol and I would read it every day, and now we've, over the years, probably moved a little more to Miracles Light. But it doesn't matter, because both Christmas and the Course in Miracles are wonderful gifts, and they're gifts that keep on giving year after year.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we have the treat of hearing from our new Assistant Minister, Reverend Kelly Callick.
Yes.
And I timed it earlier, I was over, so do Althea, this is for you. I have my timer. I was kind of thinking, what have holidays been for me throughout my life? And it kind of breaks into 3 parts. I think, like, when I was, from when I was born to when I was 18, it was kind of the same thing. I don't know if you guys went through this. Like, we literally would, like, my dad and I would cook Thanksgiving dinner. We wouldn't even have the plates cleared yet. And my mom would be like, here's the ladder, get up, go start getting the decorations, And we're like, we haven't even washed the Thanksgiving dishes yet. And then for the next couple of weeks, Mom would like rush in from work, and the first thing she'd do was plug in the tree, and we'd always fight over whether we had the ornament on that chirped like a bird, because it drove my dad crazy, but my mom loved it. And I like to have the train, and then my grandfather bought lots of train tracks, so our train literally went around the entire house, So it was that kind of craziness. And then, of course, always Christmas Eve, my dad would come in and say, did you get the stuff for your mom's stocking yet? I'd be like, I don't have a car, that's your job. And so literally, and this will date me a little bit, we'd run down to Montgomery Ward's. And we'd be like, I remember holding on to my dad because it was like, you couldn't move. And we're like trying to grab stuff for my mom's stocking. So that was kind of like the first 18 years of my life. Then I went to college. Like as soon as I turned 18, I was like literally the week later, I was in college. Went through college, got married, and those years were pretty much the same of travel. Everything was this stressful. I have to get to the airport. My ex-husband, not only did they have the direct family gathering, we had the gathering with grandma's side of the family, and then we had the big gathering. There was about 60 people that would hang out in a 2-bedroom house all day. So it was just chaos, and my parents were in town. And so I had like a lot of years like that. And then I went to like about 3 years of I just shut down. Wasn't married anymore, and I was like, I was working a lot, and I was like, I'm just done with the holidays. I'm just done with it. And I kind of during that time started making a transformation of what I looked at holidays as, and rather than saying, oh, it's a special day, I would say, oh, I'm going to use it as a reminder. And I don't know if some of you saw the email I sent out I think last week about the courses. I said, yeah, I don't think of New Year's as like, oh, I'm going to make a resolution. I think it was just a reminder to make a more loving choice. And so I kind of done that with Christmas. I'm like, well, what's Christmas represent? And it's interesting as I've studied the course more, I started seeing the Christmas as not like, oh, it's a day that I'm going to be like, oh, I'm just going to remember Jesus. To me, I take it as a reminder to see the Christ within each of us. And so I want to read to you. I love this little section, and it's really a lot about my journey this year. It's one of the little remind what is sections in the lesson of the course. And it says, Christ is God's Son as He created Him. He is the self we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well. He is the thought which still abides within the mind that is His source. He has not left his holy home, nor lost the innocence in which he was created. He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God. And I love that. That was really my journey this year. Some of you know I ended up unexpectedly kind of not working in July. And I ended up having the opportunity. I went 3 months, and I call it a personal retreat. Basically, I was in an apartment that was a garage conversion in the middle of the forest. It was a good, like, one day I got sick. I was like, I want cough syrup. And I was like, it's a 2-hour drive to get cough syrup. So I was kind of out in the wilderness. And yet during that time, I really focused on trying to see the love within myself. And one of the books I read had the image of a tree, and it said this is the self-love tree, and all the branches were ways of expressing love. But the really cool thing for me was it said, but where is love grounded? How do you have self-love? Is you see the worthiness. And to me, that's what comes back to this section of Christ is God's Son. When we see the Christ within ourselves, we go, oh, I'm worthy because of the love of God. I am worthy because I am God's child. And so it's interesting, my dad actually turned 75 this year, on December 12th. And so I went home, and that was my trip home for the holiday. And I really was like, I was a little nervous about it. A lot of times when I go home, there's family members that are depressed, there's family members that are very self-deprecating. And I was just like, I'm going to see the holiness in them. I'm going to see the perfection in them. I'm going to see the Christ in them. And I had said to the one in particular a couple months ago, like, I don't want to hear you talk badly about yourself. Love yourself. And so I really went back this year, and I was like, I'm going to love myself while I'm there. I'm going to treat myself kindly. I'm going to see the perfection. I'm going to see the Christ in others. And it was probably the best holiday I've had ever. That the family just all got along. The one person didn't say any, like literally not a single negative statement. And so for me, that's the miracle of the course and the beauty of the holiday, to remind us to go, oh, that's Christ. And we can love ourselves and love everyone else in that. Thank you. Minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Kelly. Okay, and next we have a member who I know is really excited to be here and be up here today. I hear he was just overjoyed with the possibility.
Explosions.
Yeah.
Going through my mind.
Okay, so let's give a nice round of applause for Alex Mongelero.
It's my first time speaking in front of everybody. I'm a little nervous, as you can see, but I'm gonna put the fear on the step here for now, and I'm gonna read a little bit what is Christmas for me, and how the Course of Miracles has influenced me in my journey. Christmas for me, based on my history, is always between family time. Being part of a big Italian immigrants family was the time that my grandma and grandpa put everybody together. 13 sons and about 48 grandsons and granddaughters. It was a big family. Besides that, my grandma also adopted another 5, so it's 18. It was a nice experience. I moved to America when I was 20 years old, so it's been a long and difficult transition the last 22 years in a country where I didn't speak the language, and a few friends that I had passed away or left back home. Until 11 or 12, I didn't get the idea of Christmas, the idea of union, communion, and oneness, and I'm still learning of it. Some of the years I stayed with friends through Christmas, always trying to fit in, and in some others I decided to stay in my lone wolf mode, away from everything and everyone. It was a difficult times because of some of those battles in life. I also decided to cut completely my communication with my family. But later I find out it was a very shallow and egoist move, looking into perspective that was hurting not just my own, but my family as well. One of the challenges through the years that I caught my attention happened about 2.5 years ago, right after I met Reverend Vincent Fuqua and was introduced to the Course of Miracles. Being a newbie, I knew that I had a lot to work on it in my life, and did not know where to start. I remember that I invited Vincent for a tea at Samovar Tea House down the street, which was our first time that I hang out with him after the community center. As we start talking, I share with him that I was recently dating one of the most beautiful Brazilian girls that I ever met. Was someone that I knew for about 12 to 14 years, and I always a dream to date that girl as young because she was one of the queen of the Brazilian parade, and they always craved me all my attention on her. As I share my excitement with Vincent, he raised his eyebrows and politely start asking me questions indirectly about my ego role in this brand new relationship that I was getting involved with. In less than 5 minutes and a few questions, I broke in tears in front of a new friend that I never met before. I didn't even I did not know him well. Basically, he unmasked my ego for me, on me, making me immediately realize that my ego was bigger than my heart and my true desires. After that, I started doing all the Monday night readings, and the readings started to give me one insight of me that I did not know yet. The side of me that I used to be super nice, caring, worrying about the others, helping people all the time. Sometimes I used to help people, counting that one day they would do something back to me or help me back, and sometimes I just help from my heart, feeling that was the right thing to do without expecting any returns. Slowly, a new change started to arise. I learned to start to asking my heart, combined to the Holy Spirit, what should I do before I take action when situations are abrupt? I start to realize that no one else is responsible for my happiness, and it will be better for me to be happy before I start to helping anyone else. It will start to sink better with me the idea that before I try to help anyone, I have to be in a happy place. So sometimes I help people and I was successful, sometimes I wasn't. So I knew if I come from a happy place myself, I can have 100% of productivity, helping anyone and anything that I put my hands on. Vincent did a good job bringing me closer to the group CMC. So as myself, I will forever thank him for that. I do not like to say who was it, but since his family is here, I want to make sure that you get the honor. This was a great opportunity. Vincent is a great friend. He brings me a lot of serenity and trust in his eyes. I like to always be around him. He brings me a lot of insight. I find in CMC a lot of things that I was in need in search of my life. A great family that I call my peace mafia. A great group of friends that I have something common and some interest in life. It's been almost 3 years that I consider myself part of the strongest spiritual group that I ever get involved, and I'm extremely happy that I'm almost done with my first year of classes. I found that Judy is an incredible instructor, is giving her best help in me in this journey. You've been doing a great job trying to show me the invisible, and sometimes successfully. Thank you. I've been upgrading a lot. During the week classes, I start opening more and more my heart and myself for miracles, and consistently I keep getting confirmations that the proof that I am at the right place at the right time. Specifically here, looking at you guys. Thank you for being here today. The last confirmation that sank into my heart was a few weeks ago when we went to the Golden Gate Men Chorus that I went to see with the Peace Mafia. The energy of our group it was hard to describe. A few words that I can describe is acceptance, love, light, healing, safe, and mature. It's too much positivity that I still don't have words to describe it. During the chorus, while they singing, I went through a little flashback of my life. And being together with the Peace Mafia, I start feeling my heart and soul getting slightly elevated. From that, I realized that the energy spread from me to the whole group, or from the group to me. And I start seeing and feel voices of the chorus as angels lifting the group to a higher and divine place. So at the end, when chorus coming to each church seat with a lightning candle, I close my eyes and adopt a tear of joy. That tear for me represents that I met back the innocent child that made me feel again the Son of God without any judgment. Once I read that friends are angels that God forgot to put the wings on. So I want to thank you guys for being my angels at the moment.
Thank you, Alex. That was terrific. Thank you. We will have you up here more often.
Yeah.
Is that adrenaline?
Okay, so our next speaker, always excited to have him here. Been around the Community Miracle Center for many years. Was actually the person that commissioned those wonderful angels that we always have watching over us and blessing us. Always happy to have him share. We lost him for a few years, lost track of him, and it's just wonderful to have you back and have you coming here and to have you working in the office sometime. So let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Brad.
I move kind of slow.
You're worth waiting for. You're here.
Great. Well, good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to repeat a couple of verses that Reverend Vincent read from the text. Learn that you must be worthy of the Prince of Peace, born in you in honor of him whose host you are. Holy child of God, when will you learn that only holiness can content you and give you peace? I believe one of the major shortcomings, if not the shortcoming, of the traditional or Orthodox Church, of which I'm still part, lies in fostering the belief that we have the power to be less than God created. According to biblical legend, ever since Adam and Eve entered time and walked the earth, we've missed the mark. By virtue of our humanity, we've inherited sin from our first parents. Like them, we're hopeless and helpless sinners in dire need of repentance. We hope to receive God's forgiveness and mercy. However, if we don't mend our ways, God will banish us to eternal darkness. That is the thought system of the ego mind, and it's unfortunately the thought system of the church. Needless to say, such thinking robs us of peace. We're torn between spirit and ego. Consequently, we're not at peace with ourselves or with each other. The ego shows us sin everywhere. And how can we hope for world peace when we're not at peace with ourselves or with our immediate neighbors? This Christmas Day, we're definitely not at peace. Last month, Pope Francis told churchgoers that Christmas this year is going to be a charade because the whole world is at war. How can we say we await the Prince of Peace at Christmas when we apparently do not really want peace? We are responsible for the world we see. When I first read A Course in Miracles, I devoured it. It rang so true and continues to ring true. According to the Course, I am not a hapless sinner, but the holy child of God. I am Christ. I was created out of God's love. Love is what I am and what we all are. That truth, that is the truth of who we are. It's our ego, our false self, we have concocted to protect the body that tells us we have the power to be less than the one whom God created. Our ego tells us we're sinful, mortal, and vulnerable. From my own life experience, I know I'm at peace only when I identify with the Christ within me. I think of various memes from the Course, especially from the workbook lessons, that help me to leave the ego mind and enter Christ's mind. For instance, when I feel hurt by or angry at someone, I say to myself, while thinking of him or her, give me your blessing, holy child of God, and I will give you mine. When I have the presence of mind to do this, and presence of mind is the key, my relationship with that person takes a definite turn for the better. When I'm confronted with a threatening or dangerous situation, any situation that instills fear in me, I say to myself, I could see peace instead of this. Oftentimes I have to repeat these lines over and over and over again in order to vanquish my ego. But eventually situations do take a definite turn for the better. They become miracles. Since all minds are joined, when each of us learns to identify with the Christ within rather than with the ego without, we help shift the world toward peace. In this way, we welcome the Prince of Peace. In this way, we allow Christ to be born in us. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Okay, so you know I wear corny hats, but I did not buy this hat for myself. Reverend do something about it first. She told me I had to wear it on Christmas Day.
Yes.
Do something. Come on up here.
There was one.
Okay, there's many passages in A Course in Miracles about Christmas. Some are not as obvious as others. This is one that I was told was also channeled on a Christmas day. Remember, Helen Schuckman took 7 years to channel, so there are several times it was Christmas. And this one is, my birth in you is your awakening to grandeur. Welcome me not into a manger, but into the altar of holiness, where holiness abides in perfect peace. So I've always loved this passage. It's really about us rising from something little, the manger out in the back where the animals were, to something grand. So that's our charge, that's our challenge, that's the challenge of this holiday. Basically, stop playing little and start playing grand. We're not in a manger anymore, we're not in manger consciousness anymore, we're in grand consciousness. A Course in Miracles has a little section in the teacher's manual that says, is reincarnation so? And it says it's really not a question that actually has much meaning in A Course in Miracles. If you believe in reincarnation, then it's great. If you don't, that's great. And for me, I don't have any connection with reincarnation as in past lives, past lives that were not Anthony Ponicello or Tony Ponicello. For me, reincarnation is when I look at my own past. When I look at when I was a child, when I look at when I was a teenager, when I look at when I was in my 20s, it doesn't even seem like me.
Wow.
It's like another life. Who was that person? I don't know, but I have been reincarnated from those previous incarnations. I am literally not that person anymore. In fact, my memory of all those things is really pretty fuzzy, almost non-existent at times. People remind me of things. I don't actually remember them happening. I get together with my sisters, we talk about things, I don't remember. They have memories of things, and I remember them entirely different. Who's right, who's wrong, doesn't matter. It's an illusory past that doesn't exist. The Course says, perhaps you think it is your childhood home that you would find again, the childhood of your body and its place of shelter. Our memory now so distorted, you merely hold a picture of a past that never happened. Yet there is a child in you who seeks his father's house and knows that he is alien here. So that's an important passage right there, and I think it's really important at Christmas, because Christmas is not about the birth of Jesus or Jeshua. It's about the birth of the Christ child, or our Christed nature that is within us all. And that child within us, that Christ within us, is seeking her Father's home, seeking heaven. That Christ within us is seeking reality. It's seeking heaven. And that Christ within us knows there's something a little off about this experience here. It's not quite right. And it's always going to be that way. We're never going to make this experience totally perfect, totally right. It does get healed, and it isn't able to distract us into fear as much anymore. Or when we get distracted into fear, we can hold on to peace and hold our compass and navigate through. And actually, that's what's really true for me, is it isn't that I don't go through periods of fear and anger. I obviously do. Went through a pretty bad one recently. But the fact is that when I'm in them, I can navigate myself through them, and then I can get reborn or reincarnated on the other side of them if I stay true to that Christ in me, if I stay true to that divinity within me and let that divinity within me guide me through whatever seems to be going on. And I do feel reborn. I not only feel reborn from my past as a child, or my past as a teenager, or my past as a 20 or 30-year-old, I feel reborn from the way I was earlier this year. And every time I go through one of these intense experiences of fear and anxiety, as I went through recently, I've talked about it, I feel reborn as I get through the other side of it. I actually don't feel quite like the same person that I was. And I feel humbled in a way, but actually reborn and fresh and new. Humbled in that a lot of my past I can just let go of, and reborn is I can really be as a child and just approach everything new and with wonder and not really knowing what to expect. To be open-minded. I feel much more open-minded than I was earlier, even in this year. So I'm very happy that is going on. And it's a great gift. And in Christmas time, we focus in on the gifts that we receive and the gifts that we give. And so I do want all of you to know that you are all a great gift to me. That I received the gift of this community. I received the gift of all the significance in my life. I received the gift of all the friends in my life. I certainly received the gift of the congregation, all of you. I'm so happy you're here. I am happy to be here. I am so happy that I have a wonderful, joyful, exciting, friendly, peaceful place to come to on Christmas Day. I mean, that's a huge miracle. So I really want to give you the gift of telling you how much you are all a gift to me. So thank you all for being here. The last quote from A Course in Miracles that I want to read, I believe it was read by Reverend Vincent this morning. So, watch with me, angels, watch with me today. Let all God's holy thoughts surround me, and be still with me while heaven's Son is born. Let earthly sounds be quiet, and the sights to which I am accustomed disappear. Let Christ be welcome, at Christ child, where he is at home, and let him hear the sounds he understands and see but sights that show him his Father's love. And when I stand here and hear everybody speak, and all the speakers or the speakers yet to come, I know those are the sounds the Christ within me wants to hear, and this is the sight the Christ within me wants to see. So thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Okay, we have one last speaker. We're very excited to have her up here. She's never been up here before. She's a friend of the CMC, been coming on and off. She especially likes to come for the holiday events, and she actually texted me or emailed me some time ago and said she really wanted the opportunity to talk to everybody, and she had something important she wanted to say. And I said, well, why don't you do that at our Christmas Voices Community Voices service, since we love to have the community stand up and address us. So let's give a nice round of applause for the wonderful poet and speaker, Sally Saunders. Oh, thank you.
Well, I have quite a history of enjoying Christmases with all of you. I go back to Jackson Street with Reverend Larry, and he always looked like my father, so that was really an amazing experience for me. But I feel like, you put some cream down and kittens come, and I'm one of the kittens that likes to come to this very nourishing place. And I thought it was time that I thanked you all and tell you I feel you know, I feel like cousins or uncles that would come around at Christmas time, and they would always say, gee, you're really grown, you know. And it's fun to come here and see you all flourishing. And I feel like I'm like a cousin, or I'm an uncle, or maybe a neighbor. And I wanted to introduce myself to those that don't know me. And I grew up on a farm that was built in 1700. And it was in the middle of the country. And we had a great big table. And my mother was quite a people collector. And everybody knew, you know, the Saunders farm. Well, everyone knew everyone's house. There's Squire's house and the Randall's house. Some of you are going like this. I mean, that was the way that it was. And we had working horses, and on Christmas Day, we had an open sled. And we would go in the snow to all the neighbors, and we would sing Christmas carols, and they would show us their presents. And when I think of it now, they're having 70-degree weather back in Pennsylvania, and we're freezing. Times are changing. But I was thinking about, you know, these cousins, these people that come in like on special occasions to see us, and they're almost like a totem pole of the time. And you think, like, for example, I'll give you an example. Dr. Callender, who was a doctor here, he was a knee doctor. And when he was a student at Johns Hopkins, he would come to the farm. And he would help us hide Easter eggs. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I met his mother, who was old then. Then he became middle-aged. I don't know how this all happens. His mother dies, and then he dies of old age. And so it's kind of like a time marking, you know, these ghosts, you know, in our lives that come in our families. And I see you all as a beautiful family. And so people like me, the side dishes, you know, we're like markers. And we come in and see how you've all bloomed. And it's wonderful to see someone maybe who was feeling well before is now fine. And so it kind of puts things on a speed. What is the computer word for that? Fast forward. So I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for your hospitality. I wanted to thank you for this wonderful nest that you have here. It's a very special place. And it's wonderful to be here. Thank you. Special thanks to you, Tony. You're just always so loving and so hospitable. And I'm just very, very grateful to you.